I was in a Paris restaurant a few years back, one of those quaint little brasseries that make you weak at the knees, when it occurred to me that something was off. The food and wine were delicious, the company was second to none. I was dining alone, but the vibe was different somehow. Then it twigged. It was quiet. As in library quiet. The place was full of diners, and the tables were packed in tightly together, but the only noise was a delightful backdrop of voices murmuring, glasses clinking and spoons gently lapping at bowls. Plenty of people were talking, mind you, it was just that they were talking quietly, because they wanted to make sure their companions could hear them. If I were to reach for an elaborate simile, I would say that the restaurant was like daybreak in England, where the first sounds of the morning are the gentle rousing of songbirds, rather than the sound of squawking galahs. Australians, to continue the bird parallel, are squawkers, and my hometown of Melbourne, with its proliferation of tiny bars that echo like shipping containers, is full of them. That's right. Regal, cosmopolitan Melbourne, the Paris of centipodes, is a noisy, raucous place, which often makes going out for a drink or dinner akin to a shouting match as you struggle to be heard above the din of other people's work dramas. When I was younger, I looked forward to adopting a certain curmudgeonly bearing as I aged. I fancied myself as the kind of person who would complain about noisy music to pompous bartenders, pulling plugs on amps, hushing exuberant pub singers at curfew hour. But my main bone of contention with dining out these days, apart from the apotheosis of chefs, wooden boards as plates, and the existence of foam, is other people. Let me be more specific: Australians congregating in public spaces. It's not just in bars either. The mobile phone, that great liberator of repressed id, has a lot to answer for. Or rather, its owners do. Am I the only one who thinks, barring an emergency, it's not okay to take a phone call on public transport, to talk loudly about your terrible Tinder date, why your mother needs to learn once and for all to respect your boundaries, and who again, remind me, is picking up the kids, and why is it the people with the least to say are always the ones saying at the loudest? I can still remember sitting opposite a woman on a tram who was talking loudly on her phone about her boyfriend's sexual proclivities. I looked at her for a long time, hoping to catch her eye, to prompt some degree of self-awareness. Nothing. If I think back to that restaurant in Paris, and other restaurants I visited during my trip, what struck me was that, while conversation was important to the diners, the shared space of the restaurant was equally respected. Australians are less enamored of a sense of occasion. We are suspicious of formality and inherently distrust seriousness. We will happily queue for restaurants, but would rather share food and dine at communal tables than take part in anything as ludicrous as 3 courses with matched wines, a dress code and ambient music, lest we look like giant wankers. And, of course, our loudness has a lot to do with actual space. Compared to Europe, we have a ton of it. Even our capital cities seem capacious compared to the big cities of the world. This acreage is a boon, but it has inured us to the notion of a shared public space, and the need to rein ourselves in, so we don't take up too much of it. So a bit of a rewrite of the national character is called for. Australians are often referred to as a laconic bunch. Dry as the desert, egalitarian to a T, and straight shooters from birth. But let's add another descriptor to our suite of national characteristics: loud as hell. We blame Americans for being a rowdy, talkative bunch, but as anyone who has ever tried to be heard in a small bar, or sitting quiet on public transport will attest, we like to make our lives known to others. Tinder dates and all. It's time to lower the decibel level. Johanna Leggatt is a Melbourne-based journalist and book reviewer.